Cleveland Clinic, Florida provides individualized treatment plans for excellent outcomes of health problems ranging from the most common to the most complex, even in cases considered untreatable by others. Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Every life deserves world-class care.
It's the After the Show podcast, precious.
We don't care, we're about to swear on the air. It's the After the Show, so tune in if you dare. KVJ, get your skate every single day. It's uncensored. We can say what we want to say.
Hello, what's going on? It's KVJ Tuesday After the Show podcast. What's up, everybody?
What's up?
Hello.
Gonna get to some stories here today from what we had on the Raise Your Hand poll on the regular show earlier. Hooking up with a stranger on vacation. I've never had that joy, but Burb was one of the people that raised his hand on that.
Let's get into it.
What was the vacation and who were you hooking up with?
Well, there was two. I told you about the one girl a long time ago where when I went to visit Oregon that we kind of had like a little thing, but I sort of knew her through people. That was, to me, that was a vacation, and we actually did have sex. The other one, I didn't have sex, but we did hook up on vacation. We did a lot of things.
Okay.
Not sex completely.
Right up to the line.
It was
Okay.
It was at Key West a long time ago when I went with a bunch of baseball guys.
Oh.
And I met this girl at a pool. She was with her and her sister, and everyone was trying to hook up with both of them. And that's when I went down there with catcher's gear on.
Interesting.
I had youth catcher's gear on the entire time.
And she liked that?
I guess she did.
Dang.
Yeah.
She's like, catch this.
Well, because I wasn't trying and everyone was trying so hard. And I think that the over trying for the other guys was a turnoff for her.
Interesting.
Okay.
And I ended up hooking up with her, and my buddy hooked up with her sister.
Wow.
But I didn't have sex.
Okay. Yeah.
None of
all
this.
the, yeah.
Just oral.
Well, there was
There's things.
there's some things that happened.
You were exploring with
But
your
yeah,
mouth.
There's my story.
Yeah.
I think Denny's had one.
Yeah, he did. Denny's was the other one. And then you're the only one, I think, that raised your hand on the sex in the elevator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You kinky devil.
But that was a weak-ass elevator when I worked at the Limited at the Gardens Mall.
You did it in the mall elevator?
Long time. I mean, I must have been 19 years old.
Damn.
Not the glass one, huh?
No, not. They had a back.
They got that big glass one.
I was going to say, that's what I was thinking, too. I'm like,
That's
wow.
balls.
No, nothing like that. No, there was the thing you can do to go take out the trash. It's like one of the
Like a service
yeah,
elevator.
it's yeah. It wasn't anything sexy like, but it's an elevator nonetheless.
It's pretty sexy nonetheless.
It's really not that sexy. It was pretty gross back there.
Uh-huh.
But that's like elevator light.
Look at
Okay.
you.
An elevator, legit elevator, that would take pure balls because it doesn't take that long.
I think some people pull the stop button.
Yeah.
And
Doesn't that bell go off then when you do that?
it does, but I don't think
Okay.
some people care.
You just, with the bell going, you're just
Yeah.
stuffing and puffing, huh?
Some people like that thrill of like, oh, we're breaking the rules. We're going to get caught maybe.
It's a fun
Yeah.
thrill as long as you know there's no kids around. I get the thrill behind it. It's a taboo. Mm-hmm. You ain't gonna like it because it ain't vanilla.
I had seen this. What a dirty boy Justin Timberlake apparently is. It seems like there was more to the story that happened back with the big old Super Bowl reveal that happened when he ripped the top off of Janet Jackson's bustier and her boob came popping out during the halftime show. Because there's some beef going on that Janet Jackson apparently has not forgiven Justin Timberlake over.
interesting.
And even just recently, it came up again where Janet Jackson had tweeted something out about forgiveness. And I can't remember who it was. It's somebody who was a high up in the music industry.
Yeah, it was like a manager.
Yeah.
And it was a name that we know. I saw the story.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was like a baby face or somebody like that responded, well, then you need to have the same kind of forgiveness for Justin. And I go, well, what the heck is going on here? Because it seemed like at least it was a collaboration with the two. They knew what they were doing. But there's a stylist who worked the show that says that it was Justin Timberlake's idea. And his motivation was he wanted to one-up Britney Spears, Madonna, and Christina Aguilera, who had done that makeout thing at the VMAs, and they were getting all the talk. And right then, he's young. It's the pop game. He wanted to kind of steal the narrative away and get some of the attention back on him.
But just because it's his idea doesn't mean everyone has to go through with it. I mean, you throw out ideas.
Right. Well, I think really what had happened and what we've kind of come to and the understanding we've had is that it was Justin Timberlake's idea. Janet Jackson took the brunt of the blame. And then when people were coming down on her, he kind of just slinked off into the background when he realized how nasty it got and kind of left her hanging, holding the boob herself.
Why didn't Janet's camp go, this was Justin Timberlake's idea? Why is Janet getting... Did they ever do that?
Don't think they ever made that play.
They
and
should've.
maybe that's where it was, and that's why she harbors whatever feeling she has about Justin Timberlake. It seems like that might have been it, that she had hoped that he would have been like, look, that was, it was my idea, or she shouldn't be taking all the grief on this.
He didn't want the heat. And he saw an easy, convenient back door to slither out of. And he was like, I'm just going to sneak right out this way.
I mean, I'm not shocked by it.
I'm not either. I mean, it's self-preservation in the industry, and,
Yeah. And
it's easy to judge him now.
But Janet Jackson's, her management should have stood up for her. It's not Janet. I mean, her agents and her managers should have done that to protect her.
At the time, think about it, though. He was a much bigger star, right?
She's a legend.
I know.
Easily. I think it's up to your management to protect you.
The thing that's interesting about the music industry is all the politics that happen and all these relationships that go down where, you would think that seems to be the easy, reasonable thing to do is you defend your girl, Janet Jackson. I don't know if they're on the same label, what might have been happening. There could have been conflicts like that were going on, infighting if they were on the same label, possibly, or had the same promoter that they're like, you just need to shut up and not say anything. And it seemed like maybe it was the media that was kind of taking the narrative blame more on Janet. So I don't know all the ins and outs, but I'm sure there's a story there that would explain a lot of the questions we still have about it.
Yeah, and there could be something that has nothing to do with what we're even talking about. It could be a completely different thing they're talking about.
Totally.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting. Here we are in radio. We've been, closely connected to the music industry for 25 plus years. And there's always stuff that I'm finding out about it. And I didn't even really know what this thing was when it came out about maybe a week or so ago. These songwriters that have gotten together and they have formed this thing called PACT, P-A-C-T. And there are some apparently prevalent songwriters that go on here. We've always known that because I remember during back to the NSYNC days. There was, and Denny's can actually shed some light on this. I remember, what was the name of? There was a company that was writing all the boy band hits. I can't remember the name of the company now because it's been 20 years, but they had written, I think, all the Backstreet Boys hits, all the NSYNC hits, and they were just cranking all these boy bands out of Orlando. And it was one publishing house that was doing it, but they were controlling all the rights. Well, I guess what happens is a lot of these songwriters typically get screwed in the music business, and it goes all the way back to Elvis Presley, who started it 64 years ago. Screwing over the songwriters.
Oh, songwriters get fucked over so bad.
And I didn't understand it. And in country music, for the most part, the artists themselves don't write their own music. I think Taylor Swift is an anomaly. Most of them, like I remember I saw something on The Dance, Garth Brooks' song, and he was at the Bluebird Cafe that's on like Music Row in Nashville, and he heard this guy who was a UPS driver who had written the song was performing it, hoping somebody would come and buy his song.
Oh, wow.
And Garth was straight out of Oklahoma at that time and was a nobody, and he heard The Dance, this guy performing at the Bluebird Cafe, and then tried to negotiate, and this guy's like, yeah, but you're kind of a nobody. And so Garth had to try to convince this guy to sell him The Dance, and that's how that song became what it is and the massive hit it is today.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a few that do write their stuff, but to your point, there's most of them do not. They're all hired guns.
So what really happens, and I didn't even know that this was a thing, it's the dirty secret in American music that goes all the way back about how songwriters have been getting screwed since the time of Elvis. When Elvis is only 21, his manager, Colonel Parker, if you know anything about Elvis back then, he was the manager, and he came up with this thing and this strategy so that Elvis could make a profit off of all of these songs by getting a credit that he didn't even write. So Colonel Parker, he would go in and add Elvis's name to credits on a couple of his early hits. And Elvis would then receive 1/3 of the songwriting royalties for each song he released, no matter who wrote it.
Oh.
And in fact, a young Dolly Parton had written this song called I Will Always Love You. And Colonel Parker comes to Dolly and says, hey, Elvis wants to record this. And he told her, we're going to need half of the publishing rights on this, though, for Elvis to record I Will Always Love You and to make this a massive hit. So we'll get 50% of what would be yours. And Dolly, on a recent podcast, said, I cried all night because I pictured Elvis singing it, but I had to turn him down.
Good for Dolly. Man, I love Dolly.
Yeah.
Well, how fucked up is that?
Well,
You
how
had
much money would
nothing-
she have lost? Because think of it's one of the most recorded songs now, and especially half of the money from when Whitney Houston did it would have gone to Elvis's estate.
Dang.
But what sucks is Elvis had nothing to do with writing that song. It came from Dolly Parton. And
Yeah.
the balls to say you wrote something when you did not.
Here was the thing. Apparently, Elvis was always uncomfortable with it. He didn't like it. It was all Tom Parker that would do it. And they would ask Elvis about it. He'd be like, look, I've never written a song in my life. And so Elvis didn't like it. But Tom Parker's like, I'm making you money. I'm your manager. You're going to take this, and your name is on this. He's like, well, I didn't write it. And so that was the continual practice. And that's how it started, because it was such a success for Elvis. And I mean, isn't every year he's still one of the top earning dead celebrities? Like, how's Elvis still making money? It's because his name is on all these songs that still get re-recorded.
It's pretty fucked up. It just shows you how dirty the music industry is.
Right. It's fucked up, but it's brilliant at the same time.
it's
If you can
brilliant
be
for-
that sleazy.
It's brilliant for the sleaze fucker.
Right.
Yeah.
So things have started changing in music, because today streaming pays a larger royalty for recorded music than publishing, and it's eroding the songwriter's leverage. And they say as the value of song catalogs has risen in recent years, artists are selling. If you notice, Bob Dylan, he sold his music catalog for $300 million. Stevie Nicks sold hers for $100 million. You wonder, why are they doing this all of a sudden? It's because of streaming now has changed the game, and they're seeing the value of these catalogs that they have with their name on it.
Huh.
So that's why you've been seeing a rush on all this going on. But now, as it's changing, these songwriters are getting screwed at a bigger percentage because they're losing their leverage, and it's all going to the artists that are getting credit for songs they're not writing.
I gotta sell my snack pack songs. You want to buy them, Virginia? I'll sell them to you for $5.
All of them?
You get the whole catalog.
So
You got a deal.
So now you got this new group of songwriters, and they have written for Justin Bieber, Dua Lipa, Selena Gomez, Ariana Grande, the Jonas Brothers, Britney Spears, Shawn Mendes. They've got enough really prevalent songwriters finally that are joined together saying this enough is enough. Emily Warren, who's written for Dua Lipa and the Chainsmokers, she says that artists are taking 15% to 50% of our money.
That's
for nothing.
Expose them.
They're doing nothing. In many cases, these artists are doing nothing to contribute to this, yet they take as much as 50% of our money. And they may say, hey, we're going to put them on a Zoom call because they want to listen in. And if that artist is on the Zoom call, they'll be like, yeah, they're going to take 50% of the song for that.
Well, you hear stories of where someone writes a song and it's done, and then some radio fat cat walks in and goes, well, just to add the word "the" in there, and then his name gets on the song.
His name is on there
and
as a
it's
co-writing.
Such horse shit.
Yeah, so now this pact says that they will not give publishing or songwriting credits to anyone who did not create or change the lyric or melody to a song. They want an actual contribution before they get any credit. And I had seen the process of Dua Lipa to that point, and she does seem to be actively involved. One of the songwriters said, typically what will happen is I will sit with a young artist who they don't really understand songwriting. They're too young, too immature. They're 16 or 17. You wonder how these 17-year-olds have hits? Well, what they'll do is they'll sit with songwriters and they'll be like, well, I got bullied in school, or I had a driver's license and I just got it, and this guy down the street dumped me for this hotter looking girl.
And I stalked the fuck out of him.
And they're like, okay, Olivia Rodriguez, we're going to write a hit song for you called Driver's License. It's going to be a massive hit. But she really didn't do any of the writing on it.
It makes me think, too, that even if a song doesn't need to be changed at all, they're going to find a way to change it slightly so they can get their hand in the pie.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's times where what they added in would make no difference to the listening experience, but they're going to do it to act like they're in the know and their idea. You see it in radio sometimes.
Well, now this pact is standing up, trying to change what goes back 60 years to Elvis Presley, to change the game, to say, sorry, we're going to stop this dirty practice because the way streaming is now, we're going to start making less and less money. In fact, apparently there's a saying in the music biz that says, change a word, take a third.
Yeah, see, exactly.
That is what they say.
Whatever it takes to protect the songwriter, I'm all for.
Yeah, so they finally had this group together. If you and I didn't really fully understand what was going on with PACT when I saw it come out. I'm like, why is this significant? That's why it's significant, because it could greatly change the game.
Is everybody in PACT?
I think it's just the most prevalent, but they're trying to change the game for everybody and say we need new standards, we need new laws, rules, or regulations within the music industry that could be legally binding to say that this has got to stop, because the way streaming rights are happening now is these poor songwriters, they're not going to make any money. If you come in and take 15 to 50% of it, because now the artists are making more money on streaming.
Yeah.
So you're making money on streaming, touring, and on the credits for a song you didn't write. They're like, enough's enough, man.
Not fair.
You guys are freaking rich enough. And they were talking about how quickly they can see, they'll be with a 17-year-old, and in 3 years when they're on top of the world, what dicks they become. Like they were talking about, just we can see how power and money is ruining these young kids.
Oh my gosh,
and they
it does.
become they're unrecognizable. We'll see them and write their first hits. They'll come back in the studio 3 years later and they're intolerable.
Well, we're living in a time, I'm going to sound old, but we're living in a time where like a bad baby gets praised for horrific behavior. You get money for it. You get fame.
Yeah, they do. And so they're like, enough's enough. I mean, there's enough wealth to go around. You guys don't need every single penny that comes out of these hit songs, especially when, it's...
You added the word "the" to the
right,
song.
Right.
It's not right.
It's not right, by God, and we're going to change it. So, interesting story there that was crazy today to check out. Another one I saw today, they're going to be having the vote for the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. The Florida House is going to be discussing today. It is a bill that would ban transgender athletes from joining any girls' school sports team unless they are female, as defined by their reproductive anatomy and genetics. And a lot of this stems from a pending lawsuit in Connecticut where 3 female high school runners had a lawsuit where 2 transgender athletes unfairly dominated girls' track events, winning a combined 15 championships since 2017.
I think they did a documentary on that on Real Sports and HBO.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen this story.
It's something they're trying to sort out because, there is a group that is out there called the Women's Sports Policy Working Group. Martina Navratilova is involved with that, and she's all about rights for LGBTQ, but she also is a female athlete. And so she's saying we need to see a balance here because, in fact, they even talked about it in their statements, is what they call the quote-unquote male advantage. It's just biologically you're going to have strength, speed, things like that.
Well, I think with the runner story, I think they destroyed everybody. It went from the girls that were competing for scholarships and get to that next level.
Yeah.
They were missing out because they came in and they destroyed all the competition.
Well, and it was rewriting records. And so you go in there and now they were seeing where, like in Connecticut, the record books are being rewritten and your top athletes are all transgender. And so they had said, hey, there's a competitive advantage, and that's what they're talking about, the male advantage. And so I think that's what this is all trying to balance out and find out something that is fair and balanced for everybody on this. And Florida, they say that the FHSAA and the NCAA both have successfully adopted policies that provide ways for transgender athletes to play on high school and college teams. And so they say this is unnecessary. And that's why yesterday the NCAA threatened to pull college championship games in states that have passed these anti-trans laws. So
what were the ways that they did to make it where everyone could play?
That's what I don't know. I want to know what that is. That's
a big thing.
Yeah, Florida is now one of 16 states whose high school athletic associations provide friendly guidance that allows transgender students to join sports teams based on their current gender identity. And some argue that only 11 transgender athletes have sought eligibility under the current FHSAA rules and said there have been no legal disputes in our state. So that is what they're arguing. So, yeah, how they find and finesse this balance, I think, is what is the big question here. But if they did pass this law in the Florida House, it would go to the Senate. And if it passed here, things like, Florida just had the national championship game in Miami this year for college football. NCAA would say, if they were in charge of that, and they're not in charge of the BCS, but you would see the NCAA saying we're not going to have any kind of championships in Florida, and we do host a lot of championship games.
I'm just confused because if it's a situation like the story I saw where the whole game changed for the girls that were on the team and that all the records were being destroyed, how would they make that? Yeah. How are they going to make that an even play? Because it was not an even playing field.
I think you have to go into this and you have to say, look, we want everybody to be able to compete in sports. But we do have to say, okay, we got to make sure that it's fair. Now, there are some things that are being done, like the Senate version, the Florida Senate, they have a version that they're going to be arguing that would allow transgender athletes to join girls' teams if their testosterone levels are below a certain limit for a year before they begin competition. So there would be some tougher standards that they would have to meet to try to not have what the Women's Sports Policy Working Group calls that male advantage. So that is kind of what it is. They might start measuring your testosterone to say, okay, this might qualify what league you're playing in, men's or women's, depending upon where that is, so you don't have the hormones that give you the male advantage.
So complicated.
Well,
it is very complicated.
It's not just hormones, it's like muscle mass too.
Well, because this is one of those topics where people are afraid to ask questions, they're afraid to talk about it because it's very controversial and people get very emotional about it.
Well, I think the sweet spot is that I believe in sports for every single person. You should be able to compete and have an equal playing field where everybody comes into this equally. And, I got to tell you, I was a girls softball coach for 4 or 5 years, something like that. And I would notice there were some girls that and it's in guy sports too, some people just have a genetic advantage.
Sure.
You would go in there and say, this girl's faster, stronger. I would put that still at number one. Even in football, they always go, what can you bench press? How fast can you run? That really typically is it. That was the number one attribute on how I could tell you if somebody was going to be a star athlete was what are your physical gifts?
Strength and speed.
That was number one. You could overcome that with other things, but that was the number one factor on and that's why a lot of coaches will recruit athletes who know nothing about this current sport, but they're fast or strong, and they're like, man, that would be great in this sport. We just got to train you now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so they've got to figure this out. But, this is kind of the new thing that is happening. The NCAA makes that statement. And, if there's any policies that local or state governments make, the boycotting thing is really becoming a big leverage piece. I saw that Will Smith's new movie has just moved out of Georgia.
Oh, that's right.
Georgia's losing championships. They lost the All-Star game for baseball and the draft. Because of their voting.
I saw Jamie Kennedy is in some hot water. He was doing some kind of a movie where I think the message is pro-life, and I think a lot of his fans are turning on him because he took an acting role. And it's just kind of weird to see now people getting mad at people taking acting roles. When the acting role, like I always grew up, acting's make believe, and people play people they aren't really.
A character.
So like if I played a serial killer,
well, if I played a murderer,
right,
I'm not really a murderer, and those aren't my personal beliefs. I guess I'm kind of confused because people they get emotional when their political beliefs are threatened, and they'll attack even the art that goes behind it.
Hollywood's kind of had a schism now. I saw that they've got kind of a conservative actors group because they are realizing they're being blackballed from certain projects. And so it's like John Voight and a couple other guys that are now doing all the conservative type movies because,
Well, Jamie Kennedy goes, I think this is kind of weird. Everyone's turning on me because it's just an acting gig. But I guess it's either backed by some kind of conservative group. There's something behind the scenes where it's become politicized.
Right, exactly.
It's not just about acting. It's more about you're on that side. And I don't think he is. I think Jamie Kennedy
wants a check.
I think the motherfucker wanted a gig, y'all.
Yeah.
Well, we need to support civil discussion, like I said, on all these issues so that we can find a good, thoughtful place for everybody to be. So.
And we need to support Jamie Kennedy not getting gigs. Just kidding. I'm just messing.
That is crazy. Let me see a couple of the comments coming in here. That we got here. You can text them in 877-979-WRMF, or we got the chat room going on. If you're not ever watching us, you can watch it live and start commenting on that. Also got some emails here, mail@kvjshow.com. Got one from Rach talking about the fake-ass plants. She said, I wanted to let you know that the acronym FAP, F-A-P, Jaybird, used for your fake-ass plants is actually a term
for
in the
off.
online sex work industry referring to the sound a male makes while yanking his crank.
Yeah, it's a jerk-off joke as well. I'm fapping over here. I'm fapping.
Beating your meat?
Beating your meat, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Look, every day you learn something that's awesome.
I'm not changing fapping. I love my faps. My fake ass plan. I'm gonna get some more too. Actually, I'm going all in on faps.
Matt D from Fort Pierce helping us out as we get ready for another KVJ draft coming up on Thursday, which we're going to be doing the whole thing live on the radio. Returning back to the old format this week.
Good, the people have spoken.
Yeah, thank you for that adjustment. We tried something different, which we'll always try new little things, see if it's better, and if it's not, we'll go back to the old.
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, just so you know, in the event of a tie, when drawing cards in the KVJ draft, the suits are ranked in reverse alphabetical order. Spades is the highest, then hearts, then diamonds, then clubs is the lowest. Thank you for that, because that does actually help, because I've always wondered that. I thought that spades was the highest, but I didn't know the rest of the orders. So we'll do that so we don't have to keep redrawing and all that kind of stuff just to get to it faster. We'll go spades and then hearts, then diamonds, then clubs. If you did not know.
Thank you for that
now you
nugget.
Know. That is good.
My mind's still blown away from the whole shelling thing with the pistachios.
Found that today. I know.
Well, if it's unshelled,
it is confusing.
It is confusing. If you're not really into the nut game, I'm not a shucker. I don't shuck things. I don't peel.
It's called shelled nuts.
So when they're shelled, they're naked.
Yes.
Holy fuck.
Shelled nuts means there is no shell.
Does the average person know that? Does most people know that? Or am I really that dumb?
I don't know if most people know that. I mean, you are kind of dumb, but I think that unless you really are a nut enthusiast or a cooking enthusiast, you might not know
I
that.
was so confused when you brought that up.
Now you know.
I know now.
The things you learn on a daily basis on this show.
I do learn a lot.
Mm-hmm. We were asking, too, about how much nannies are making. There's a thing that had gone in the New York Post yesterday of a couple in San Francisco looking for 3 nannies, and they're paying $100,000 a year each. I mean, that's crazy, $300,000. But, I guess if you got it, it's not that big a deal.
I mean, can you imagine? You pay the nannies $300,000. How much money do you have?
Yeah.
A lot.
It's, I'm always just blown away at how much money some people around South Florida have.
And you have 2 kids and 3 nannies? That is crazy.
Yeah.
And you probably get to a part in your life where you have all this money in your account and go, I'm going to die soon. I might as well spend it.
And I guess, if you're spending it on making sure your kids are given the best care possible, that is a great investment.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably a good investment to make. Well, they talked about how they have multiple houses and things like that.
Right.
And, there's a lot of people in South Florida that have that as well.
But if you're spending that, okay, let's say you are, Virginia's my nanny and I'm paying her $300,000. That's the salary. and she's there to take care of the kids. But I come home one night and go, "Hey, Virginia, could you make me a favor? Could you make me 5 grilled cheeses, please?" Would that kind of go under the umbrella of you're like, all right, well, I guess I got to make these sandwiches?
I think it depends because there are nannies that also cook, clean, and do everything.
For $300,000, you'd be like, I got to fucking make some sandwiches.
Oh, I would definitely make
they're
you
only getting
sandwiches.
$100,000. It's 3 nannies. They're hiring at $100,000 each.
Well, even at $100,000, you'd be like, all right, $100,000, let me make some fucking sandwiches.
I would make the sandwiches,
would.
but I think you have to talk about that when you first take the gig. Like if they're paying that much money, they have a specific, clear outline of everything they want you to do and not do.
You have a little thing at the end. Go if I come home and I'm hungry and I want some grilled cheeses, we make grilled cheeses.
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And they know ahead of time. Okay, I'm taking this gig, and I know this dad likes a grilled cheese when he comes home drunk.
And it's probably needs to happen every night then.
He likes to get bird bombed and eat grilled cheese.
You know, the thing that I was wondering is I saw that, though. I did pause a minute because it is, you know, when you break it down, it is $100,000 a year. It is in San Francisco. And I was like, I don't know that that's really that much money.
It is for a young person that is, they have a place to live there in the house. They
Yeah.
have their travel taken care of. I mean,
That's a shit ton of money.
That is a shit ton of money. I don't care what town you live in. For a 21-year-old, that is a lot of money.
You're thinking like a man who's got a family in college, all that. For a person who's single that has no overhead with family, that's a
Young.
lot. That's a lot of fucking money, man. You can bank a lot of that money and put it away.
You can. I know San Francisco, if you've ever plugged in how much the cost of living is there to do anything, just to go out and just be in San Francisco it's one of the most expensive cities we have, a lot more expensive than here.
Yeah, but if you're getting your house paid for too.
It does help, and that's why it kind of balances out.
Oh,
So I
you
was
make-
like, what are we talking about in cost? Now, Brooke had sent in she was a nanny here in South Florida and Delta Beach on the Intercoastal.
What's Delta Beach? Where's
Sounds
that?
fancy.
Delta Beach?
It sounds like an old 90s show that would be on USA late
I want to
at
go
night.
to Delta Beach.
Delta Beach. Yeah, I think it's like around Daytona.
Oh.
Somewhere around there, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. Just trying to figure that out. It was the first thing that popped up, but that may
Sounds
not be it.
fancy.
Yeah. Yeah, I never heard of it. But she said that she was making $25 an hour. So if she was doing the same thing like in San Francisco, 12 hours a day, let's say she did 350 days out of the year, she would be making $105,000 at that rate. So, you know, I guess that's probably standard what you make in South Florida compared to what they're offering.
Maybe. I don't know. Back in the day, I would have shit myself if someone offered me $25 an hour to babysit. Like, what?
Oh, yeah. But modern times, and the babysitters today will say they're an influencer. They got to charge an extra 10 because I'm an influencer. It has nothing to do with babysitting.
Yeah, but I think the cool thing about it is, keep in mind, you're going to be riding in great cars. You're going to be taking great trips. You're going to be staying in a really nice house. So I assume a lot of them will be live in and
That's
they'll
what
be
I'm
there.
saying. You could save so much money. If all of that shit's paid for,
Yeah.
$100,000, you'll be able to bank a lot of that money back. Unless you have to go to the club every fucking night. And if you are doing that, you're not that good of a nanny.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty good if you can do it and find the right family.
Watch Mrs. Doubtfire. Get some ideas.
Let me see here. We got some advice emails. I'll probably get to those tomorrow on the show. So if you sent those in, you can
Dear
get them to
KVJ,
us.
how can I fuck up my life even more?
Dear KVJ, how can I find these $100,000 nanny jobs?
Right.
I mean, that
Yeah.
would be amazing.
Yeah.
Dear KVJ, when y'all gonna start up your OnlyFans account? Want to see them titties?
We're talking to you, Suits. Oh, I want to see them areola.
I think we would do.
Have we ever seen Suits' titties?
I have.
Have you?
You weren't here. When you were out one day,
Yeah.
I asked all the dudes to get shirtless, and I think that they just did it because they were so confused.
Well, the only one. Guess who? The only one that was enthusiastic. The guy who has the worst body on the show, Bird. Well, sure, fucking take it off. I don't think the other two were feeling it.
Denny's and Suits just did it, I think, begrudgingly. 'Cause
Yeah,
they
you
just,
know our co-host Virginia Weinstein.
Yeah. Putting everybody in that hashtag Me Too movement.
Oh yeah.
I put it on Instagram.
Everyone's all just feeling weird. Suits looking like a hostage on Instagram. Looking like with so much regret in his eyes.
Awkward, uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, sad.
Made our audience feel uneasy. You really missed a doozy, Kev.
Oh, yeah. Sorry I left early. That's what happens around here. All right. Thank y'all for the emails. Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.
Cleveland Clinic, Florida provides individualized treatment plans for excellent outcomes of health problems ranging from the most common to the most complex, even in cases considered untreatable by others. Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Every life deserves world-class care.